Please.
The International Criminal Court in The Hague has said it'll end all proceedings against the Kenyan lawyer Paul Gicheru following his death 2 weeks ago. Gicheru had been accused by ICC prosecutors of running an egregious and damaging witness tampering scheme that made it impossible to pursue allegations against President William Ruto over post-election violence in Kenya in 2007 and 2008. Prosecutors alleged he'd paid bribes of over $8,000 and threatened the safety of ICC witnesses. The trial opened in February and Gicheru denied all the charges. Prosecutors completed their evidence at the end of March. Meanwhile, Kenyan police said they were investigating Gicheru's death, which apparently occurred after he had a meal with his family almost 3 weeks ago. His son was taken to hospital complaining of stomach pains following their meal together. Thousands of Tunisians took to the streets of the capital on Saturday in protest at President Kais Saied, who they blame for the severe economic crisis, including food shortages and soaring inflation. Led by the National Salvation Front, a coalition of opposition parties, demonstrators marched through the main streets of Tunis, calling on the president to step down. Tunisia's debt far exceeds the GDP of the country, and the government is now negotiating with the International Monetary Fund for a loan of about $2 billion. Basic products such as flour, sugar and coffee are in short supply, and crises such as COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine have increased the cost of imports such as cereals. The country's also been hampered by a serious political crisis since President Saied seized full power in July 2021.
Ethiopia has ordered banks to deny foreign currency to businesses importing non-priority goods in an effort to shore up dwindling foreign reserves in one of Africa's major economies. The move effectively freezes the import of dozens of items such as alcohol and cars, as businesses must register with banks to obtain the foreign currency needed to bring goods into the country. In a letter to Ethiopia's central bank, the Ministry of Finance said it had become necessary to restrict the use of foreign currency to import food, medicine and medical equipment and raw materials for manufacturing. No recent public figures are available regarding Ethiopia's reserves of foreign currency. In late March, the National Bank of Ethiopia indicated reserves had fallen to $1.6 billion at the end of 2021, covering less than 2 months' worth of imports, according to local newspaper The Reporter.
About 500 people are believed to have died in Nigeria's worst flood in a decade, with almost 1.5 million people displaced from their homes. The heavy downfalls have hit huge swathes of the country and affected people in all walks of life.
I, as a keke driver, quite right, it affected us, and it affected us very, very well. Affected me most especially, because people are no longer living in this area. People have migrated to another places, so we don't longer see passengers to carry. It's only these canoe people that they are the one doing the shuttle services. So we don't have anything like a car or bus or even other vehicles that we normally use for transportations.
The floods have been made worse by poor infrastructure and are now sparking fears of food shortages and high inflation. And fuel scarcity has already caused long queues at petrol stations.
I do it together with our yard people. We paid for over 5 trips of sand that we dropped along the street in front of our yard to know if it can be able to stop this flood from entering our house, but all to no avail. The whole effort proves abortive. It couldn't work because the flood is too much.
Even more heavy rain is expected in the coming weeks and months. The rainy season typically ends in November in northern states and in December in the south, and more damage to people and property is likely before then. Morocco's King Mohammad VI led a parade in Rabat from the royal palace ahead of a speech in which he urged all citizens to tackle the urgent challenges of a severe drought. The country is currently experiencing the most severe drought it has seen in over 3 decades, he says. In the face of this ordeal, we implore the Lord to bless our country with good rains. In order to remedy this situation, we have adopted, since last February, within the framework of the Plan to Combat the Effects of Drought, anticipatory measures aiming to secure the availability of drinking water, to support farmers and to preserve livestock. Morocco is heavily dependent on agriculture, but the filling rate of dams is reaching only a quarter of normal levels. The king said people should use water sensibly and preserve the water tables. We have dedicated several working sessions to this issue, which have resulted in the development of the National Priority Water Programme 2022 to 2027, he says. Since our accession to the throne, we have consistently and resolutely pursued the policy of building dams. More than 50 new large and medium-sized dams have been built and another 20 are under construction. The king asked the government to launch a national pact for investment in partnership with the private and banking sectors. He said the move could raise $48 billion and create 500,000 jobs by 2026.